There we go. There we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Labor and Workforce Committee. I am Jermaine Jones, Chair of the committee and representative of the 12th District. Today, the committee will be hearing Bill 25-0116, Security Officers Compensation. In attendance, we have Council President Zeke Cohen.
Thanks, Chair.
Council members Ryan Dorsey from the 3rd District, and Councilwoman Felicia Porter from District 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have several representatives from the Mayor's office and the Council President's office. Let's begin, if you don't mind. So, Bill 25-0116, Security Officers Compensation, for the purpose of requiring certain types of employers to provide specific minimum compensation to a certain class of employee, defining certain terms, providing for the effective dates of this ordinance, providing for the termination of certain provisions of this ordinance, and generally relating to compensation for security officers. This bill was introduced on November 11th, 2025, sponsored by myself, Jermaine Jones. Let me start off just by announcing today we won't be taking any vote. Today won't be a voting session. But also state I look forward to a robust and fruitful conversation around this bill, centered around collaboration and figuring out ways we can best support the workers of Baltimore. While we all may not agree on how, to ensure this mechanism happens and ensure that security officers are paid a fair wage, one thing I know for sure majority of us in this room do agree on is why, and why it needs to happen. Why? The why is because security officers many make as little as $15.80 an hour. Why is because many security officers are Black and brown women who are the sole providers for their family. The why is because each and every day, security officers put their lives at risk, not only for us, but to keep our city safe. And why? It's because they deserve it. Currently, it is freezing outside, and it's gonna get below freezing level 32 degrees. And many security officers have to work in conditions like this. And while doing laps outside and keeping our city safe, and all we want to make sure happens today is that they receive a fair wage for the work that they do. So I just want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you for being a part of this conversation. And I'd like to pass it along to our Council President, Council Zeke Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the members of the committee. Thank you to the administration, to all the folks that showed up in chambers this evening. I will briefly apologize. After giving my remarks, I am gonna have to run. My wife is on call, and I got 2 kids, and they want dinner. And so I am going to run out of these chambers and go home and feed my children. But it is really good to be with you all this evening. And I wanted to just share my why for why I support this bill. And I want to also just thank the chairman who has really been leading on this effort and this important issue. And when it comes to working people, has been fighting every step of the way for workers in this city through the Labor Committee. So number one is that Baltimore is winning the public safety fight right now. We are seeing historic declines in homicide and non-fatal shootings. And that is to a lot of people's credit. Of course, the mayor, the state's attorney, the governor, folks in this chamber, my colleagues, Monsi, all the different entities, the communities that have been stepping up. But guess what? It's also our security workers. It's the folks who keep us safe in buildings like this one. They are as much a part of the crime fight as anybody else, and they deserve credit for being part of these historic reductions. The reality is that it is a hard job, and it's a public safety job. The reality is that there is an enormous amount of turnover in this industry. 77% of security workers turned over in the city of New York in 2024. Anecdotally, I've heard it's even higher in our city, in the city of Baltimore. And finally, just on a very personal note, I cannot come into my place of work, this chamber, and look the women and men that keep us safe in the face and continue to pay them a poverty wage. That is unacceptable. And there are a lot of times in city council business where the issues are complex and challenging, and there's a lot of compromise that needs to be made, and there's a lot of deep work that needs to be done. And with any bill, we're gonna hear from all the sides and the proponents and the opposition and be deliberative. But there's sometimes where there is just right and wrong. And passing this bill is the right thing to do because of the people that are fighting every single day to keep us safe. So with that, I thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank all the folks, the administration, all the folks who have co-sponsored this, my colleagues who are here tonight, and I really, really appreciate you, and I want to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, Council President. So next up, I'll do a quick overview of the bill, basically focusing on what the bill is looking to accomplish and the mechanisms within the bill. So, quick. Why? Why we need to raise the minimum wage for security officers? It's simple. It's to ensure public safety by reducing turnover in this essential workforce. As Council's president stated early in 2024, most recently New York City had a 77% annual workforce turnover rate in investigations and security service industry. That means 3 out of every 4 workers within a year left that industry. And in order to keep continuity, in order to keep security and protection, it's important that, we increase this, decrease the turnover by ensuring people are paid a decent wage. Next slide. So whether sometimes there may have been question of whether or not Baltimore City is able to do this. Precedent has been set in the state and local laws. For example, Washington, D.C. passed a minimum wage benefit standard for security guards in 2008, which still remains in effect today. Also, New York City's prevailing wage law includes wage and benefit provisions for security guards at public subsidized buildings as well. And additionally, here in the state of Maryland, the Maryland General Assembly passed the Secure Maryland Wage Act in 2021, which increased wages for security officers at sensitive locations such as BWI and Penn Station. Why? To reduce turnover rates. Next. All right, so what does this bill do? The first thing it's going to do, it's going to allow the Wage Commission to set wage and benefit standards by July 1 of each year. A compensation will be paid as any combination of wage and benefits. So the wage and benefit what are those wage and benefits? The wage and benefit standards are set by the higher of 2 different factors. One, the federal standard, which is found under the Service Contractor Act wage determination, which exists to this day. And also, or we're going to use the new Baltimore City standard that we're going to establish by way of this bill. The minimum wage standard would first take effect, won't take effect until January 1st, 2027. So the proposed wage calculation for security officers in Baltimore, how we're going to calculate this. Like I stated earlier, the federal standard based on the Service Contractor Act as of July 2025 currently sets the wage at $18.29 per hour. As far as health and welfare benefits, at $5.55 per hour, which also includes between 2 to 4 weeks of paid vacation, based on time served and federal holidays. But in order to, what happens is those federal, well, one of the concerns is what if that federal update doesn't actually happen sometimes. So, which is why it's important that we have our own local determination as well that we're looking to establish, in which the Wage Commission will survey wages and benefits for guards at large buildings. Because this is something that the Wage Commission currently does around prevailing wage surveys, in which they collect the wage surveys within construction for certain industries, and we think that they can also collect the same. We look forward to the commission collecting wage determinations for security officers as well. All right. Which employers and professions does this bill apply to? It's really simple. Those who employ 2 or more security guards. The exclusions that we included in this bill mirror those established within state law, which are the Marine Guards or shipmen watch or watch shipmen, and also unarmed employees of bars and taverns or restaurants. And that just mirrors the state. And the last important thing is enforcement. The enforcement that'll come along with this bill, while not directly in the bill, it's implied because it'll fall underneath the enforcement that's currently in place with other city wage law violations. The wage and how the monitoring will happen, the Wage Commission will investigate the violation and make a determination on whether or not a violation exists. The investigation will be initiated by the employee, or the commission has the authority to initiate an investigation. And if the violation is upheld, the employee must pay owed wages with 10% per year interest. The employee must also pay a fine to the city, and on the levels of $250 for the first offense, $500 for the second offense, and $1,000 for each subsequent offense. So. All right. That concludes my overview of the bill. At this point, we will open it up to agency reports. We want to start with law. If you can give us your report and explanation.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Jeff Hochstetler with the City Law Department. The Law Department can approve this bill for form and legal sufficiency.
All right. Thank you. Next up,
Mr. Chair, can I kind of level set before we go into the rest of the agencies? Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Chanel, and I serve as the Deputy Director for Government Relations for Mayor Scott. Mr. Chair, first I want to start by saying that we appreciate your leadership in bringing this legislation forward to strengthen compensation standards for Baltimore security officers. As we all know, this workforce plays a critical role in keeping our commercial and public spaces safe, and this bill represents an important step in recognizing the value of their work. Today, this committee will hear some concerns from the Office of Equity and Civil Rights, the Department of Finance, and the Department of General Services, none of which reflect opposition to the intent of the bill. Rather, our agencies have identified areas where additional clarity or refinement could help ensure that the bill is effective, equitable, and obviously something that we could implement. Mr. Chair, as we've already discussed, we look forward to working with you to address some of the issues that we have seen in the bill and craft the strongest version of the legislation possible. Our shared goal is to advance a bill that meaningfully improves compensation for security officers and positions the city for successful implementation. The administration stands ready to collaborate on any amendments and provide any support needed to move the legislation forward.
All right, thank you for your collaboration and your support in this matter. Appreciate it. Next up, agency reports. If we can go with Department of Finance.
Good evening, Chair Jones and members of the committee. My name is Gabriel Stewart Zykowitz. I work for the Finance Department as their legislative analyst. The Department of Finance understands and sympathizes with the intent of Council Bill 25-116 to raise the wages of security officers. However, the department is opposed to due to the unbudgeted fiscal impact to the city. The costs of implementation would have two primary direct fiscal impacts. First, the security contract that is managed by DGS, and the second is staffing with OECR to implement and enforce. This would result in significant recurring costs for the city that are at the moment unbudgeted. This legislation would increase the cost of the security contract, and it would also require the creation of at least 2 to 3 positions within OECR for personnel costs. These positions would be charged with implementing as well as, importantly, enforcing the legislation. OECR would also have to do a periodic review to make sure that their caseloads are manageable. This legislation would also result in private businesses in Baltimore City facing an immediate increase in costs for security officers. Most businesses would see an average increase of around $6.82 an hour, not including company overhead. These costs would most likely result in businesses shuffling the costs onto customers, potentially reducing the usage of security officers, or cutting costs in other areas. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of General Services.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Leslie Carter, Assistant Deputy Director of Legislative and External Affairs. The Department of General Services have reviewed the Security Officers Composition Bill and has no operational concerns as this does not impact DGS' ability to deliver services or its core functions of keeping city employees and residents safe while utilizing city buildings. With that in mind, DGS would defer to BBMR regarding any fiscal impact determinations and funding consideration. Our position is without recommendation.
Thank you. And I guess we have the Wage Commission, or the OCR and the Wage Commission on 2 separate ones, or is it all together? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure, clarification on here. So we have Office of Equity and Civil Rights.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Zachary Wellman. I'm the Equity Policy Analyst for the Office of Equity and Civil Rights, the department within the city that houses the Wage Commission. I'm joined by my colleague, Araceli Stafford, Chief of the Wage Commission, as well. Upon reviewing City Council Bill 25-0016, or 0116, I'm sorry, the OECR did not discern any inequity in the purpose, the intent of the legislation, and appreciates the effort to obtain better wages and benefits for the city security workers. As the city within the as the agency within the city of Baltimore entrusted to uphold wage law, fair working conditions, and labor rights, the Office of Equity and Civil Rights on principle supports the effort of the legislation to raise wages, ensure more robust worker benefits, and strengthen those labor rights. And we agree and we concur with you, Mr. Chair, that why this is important is because the workers deserve it. However, just upon our review, we noticed a few things that really culminated in the methodology, approach, and logistics mattering when considering how we're going to collectively work to achieve these goals. Due to some concerns operationally, staffing, and just logistically with actually fulfilling and implementing the legislation, we are currently, request an unfavorable committee report on the legislation, but that is solely specifically as written at this time. We are open and welcoming to further conversations to provide any ideas for amendments or changes necessary and to really work out how we can implement this legislation to its fullest extent to give security workers what they deserve and ensure that us as the Wage Commission can really, support those workers and ensure that they are paid fairly. And the law that we enact to support them and protect them is actually going to have full operational capacity implementation. That's all. We are both open to any further questions. Thank you.
Gotcha. So we guess that's the end of committee report. So we'll open it up for, questions. Committee questions. I know it was established within the within one of the reports that it would take about 2 additional staff. Currently, what is the? I guess my question. Currently, what is the number of staff for the Wage Commission?
Currently, the Wage Commission have 3 investigators and the chief, myself.
Okay, so basically about 4. So with this new legislation, it will almost require 50% increase in staff. Is what that based upon what you're already
Correct. So currently, the three investigators housed under the Wage Commission oversee all investigations, auditing, site visits for all construction projects with DOT, DPW, DGS, Parks and Recs, some contracts with the Bureau of Procurement, plus all the service contracts with living wage.
And within those living wage contracts and within also the prevailing wage industry, you all receive the wages kind of as they come in. Every contractor has to report it to you all, correct?
They are mandated to submit payrolls to the Wage Commission,
Yeah,
correct?
they're obligated to submit, and you all look through those payrolls, and that's kind of what the manpower usually requires for it's going through those certified payrolls?
Correct. So the last couple of years, the commission has become a proactive commission and not reactive. So by submission of those payrolls, we audit them to identify, misclassifications, overtime, any type of violations promptly, and not 2-3 years after the contracts were awarded.
Exactly. And from reading your report, it looked as if you all interpret the legislation as you are receiving the, I guess, certified payrolls or payroll for security officers, and if that part wasn't required, and only you would investigate upon receiving notice, would that change the manpower requirement?
Under Article 11, employers are not required to submit payrolls to the Wage Commission, as is with the living wage. We will request that information when it's needed.
Yeah, got you. And under that mechanism, would you still feel like you need the same level manpower, or what?
I would say we will need even more.
You need more in
Yes.
order to
To account how many security guard firms are out there, how many employees are there. Everything is going to be based on self-reporting. We will require a lot of outreach to these employees working under, the private sector. Now is different under the living wage. They are mandated to submit this information, so it's easier for the Wage Commission to start investigations and audit payrolls.
got it. And just last question, when doing the wage determination, which will be the other, determining the wage, would it be easier just to replicate the system for prevailing wage, where you currently require contractors to volunteer to submit what their payrolls are? You could just volunteer, allow security office employers to volunteer what their wages are in order to determine
The
the wage.
difference is for the prevailing wage, we have an understanding of what contractors are working in the city, so we can request that information. We don't have that for the private sector. So we will rely a lot of volunteering information.
Yeah, okay. And for construction, there's private sector construction companies, and they're able to submit their payroll as well.
Correct, but most of them work on they work both, the public and the private sector.
In the private sector. Yeah, thank you. Any other committee questions? Councilwoman Porter.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to, I believe it was Article 11. You say in your report that, Article 5, Subtitle 26. The Wage Commission would lose its authority to require payroll submissions and conduct routine, proactive payroll audits and security employees under Article 5, Subtitle 26. Walk me through how, I know, they are not required, but is there any processes that can be in place if they do work in the city, if they are geographically and/or do business with the city? Is there a way that we can begin to require those documents?
So under Article 5, Subtitle 26, the living wage law, contractors are required to submit payrolls to the Wage Commission. How this bill is proposed is that security guards will fall under Article 11, which is the minimum wage. And under that law, contractors are not required to submit payrolls.
I see. So, okay. And so again, if there's an opportunity for them to do work with the city, if there is an opportunity for us to require those documents. So I guess I'm trying to understand and figure out a way, because it seems like the major issue, of course, is the fiscal impact of this bill, but also the enforcement capabilities, the self-reporting
Yeah.
of the entities. And so I would love to see if there could be some sort of amendment that is drafted that includes those entities into this legislation. If they do work with the city in any way, I wonder if there can be some sort of connection to that premise.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Councilwoman. We can certainly look into that. I think that'd be something that we will work through with law, I guess, because you're saying if we have a contract with somebody that
Yes.
has security as a part of the services that they provide, but maybe we're using them for, I don't know, road repair,
Yes.
that in collecting the information that we need on the road repair
Yes.
contract, that we would subsequently also try to capture some other information.
That is correct. And
Yeah.
so that's an addition to the contractual, I mean, that's an addition as a clause to the contract. And so if it's not violating that law, I wonder if there can be a conversation of if we can include it in the contract.
Yeah.
If they
Okay.
do work within the city. And so that's a conversation with the law department. I don't believe that has to be something that we discuss now, but
Right,
I
yeah.
think that there has to be a careful consideration considering the self-reporting nature of what we're talking about. And then as a city entity, if it's not illegal and we control the clauses of our contract. Correct me if I'm wrong, the law department. We control the clauses of our contract. And so any data that we would need, if it's not violating, I wonder if there can be a conversation of addition.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
something we could consider. Thank you.
And just from the prevailing wage industry, thank you for that highlight, Councilwoman. Often private employers look forward to self-reporting and want their numbers to be considered. That way, whatever numbers come out on the back end is closer to what they kind of pay. So currently, like there's many private contractors who may not do business with the city, but when it comes to prevailing wage, they ensure that they submit their wages so that when the wage is established, it look closely to the wages they currently pay. So, thanks. But any mechanism we can do to encourage it would be the better. Would be better. Councilman, any other questions before we move on to public testimony? What?
Yep.
Okay.
The conversation, whose report is this? Office of Equity, the conversation around the McNamara-O'Mara Service Contract Act, local wage surveys, collective bargaining agreements where applicable, and the National Health and Welfare Rate. Can you explain how, if any, I noticed that you all oppose the legislation as it's written. Is that piece of legislation, is that hindering the conversation in any way?
Are you referring to, is the guards one calculation component
Yep,
hindering?
That is correct, yep.
No, it hasn't hindered any of our conversations or thoughts on the legislation.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just my last question for finance, with your report, I guess your opinion of the report is solely on the financial burden that it will have on the city?
The unbudgeted financial burden at the moment.
Well, it won't take effect until 2027. So is there an unbudgeted? I guess that's my question.
I mean, the budget is it's, we are starting to develop it already for fiscal '27. And so that it would need to be put in now and as soon as possible so that we can adequately make sure that everything is in place and that we can do it without, cutting any other services or costs.
Got you. But as of today, there's still time. Maybe
Well,
there's a
but
factor.
but also to that point, Mr. Chair, the law requires that the first rate be set that the Wage Commission make the first determination come July 1 of '26.
Yep.
So they would need that staffing now. And so to Gabe's point, we're already well into budget preparation. So those would have been things that Director Green, who's the Director of Office of Equity and Civil Rights, would have been putting into her budget proposal for the mayor and city administrator to consider, and then obviously whatever goes to the council.
I got you. And is it true that the city's budget is about 4.6 billion, would you say, annually? Yeah, about that. And if we're looking at about $800,000, that's what, 0.017% of the city's budget. So just want to put that in perspective. Granted, it's not budgeted, but we're talking about 0.017% in order to make sure people are paid a decent wage. So.
Yes, right, but I don't think we also want to oversimplify in that way too, though. You're still talking about almost $1 million annually, which is a big commitment, and that's just on a city contract. And that's not even including whatever the wages and fringe benefits that would be for the staff members that are needed. It could start out that OACR, based on what the finance department is saying, they only need 2 staff members. But if we see a windfall of non-compliance, right, and then suddenly the agency falls behind and being able to keep up, right, then we would need to have another conversation around, well, are the current staffing levels sufficient to adequately be able to still do prevailing wage as for our contractors, but then separately also making sure that the folks that are doing security work in the city are actually being paid the wage that's set by the wage commission.
Got it. No, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the work the Wage Commission do in the Office of Civil Rights, and we'll say every year, and I encourage for a budget increase for the work that they all do, and this year I will push for the same thing. So thank you all for the work that you do.
I would add one more thing to that point, a bit about, as Gabe touched on it being unfunded, the determination, the first initial wage determination is required by July 1, 2026, and that would be the soonest possible that the budget changes would be able to be made for us to begin the process of, onboarding, training staff, and then that implementation. So like currently with the staff power that we have, that wouldn't be able to be changed until the calculations already due, essentially based on the budget process. So it would be about another 6 months from there before we have kind of the staff running from the moment that we can begin hiring after the start of the new fiscal year. So just currently based on where that, we need that first calculation completed by, we wouldn't be able to hit that goal.
Got it.
And Mr. Chair, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Have you reviewed the budget in any way and carved out where this $820,000 is coming from?
No, we just got the analysis of that.
My bad. Okay, never mind.
We're working. Next up, public testimony. Okay. Well, first up, we have Mr. David Rodwin. Yes, if you go up to the podium, everyone have 2 minutes. Just hit the little person button, it'll turn red, and you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to testify on Council Bill 25-116. My name is David Rodwin. I'm an attorney at a public interest law firm called Murphy Anderson, and before that, I practiced at the Public Justice Center, where I led the Workplace Justice Project. My understanding is that the Law Department has approved the bill's legality, but there might have been some questions about a few different issues, preemption and equal protection. So on the request of Ricardo Campos from 32BJ, I submitted a legal memo on these issues. You all should have it. I have extra copies of it. Happy to distribute those after my testimony. So one of the questions was about the impact of the National Labor Relations Act on this bill, and the short answer is that there is none, and that's because the National Labor Relations Act only preempts bills that predetermine the outcome of collective bargaining and not minimum labor standards legislation that is broadly applicable to all workers, whether or not they're unionized. So the NLRA has nothing to do with this. A second question is about another federal law called ERISA. It's a famously complicated law. It stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, and it governs basically insurance, health insurance, what goes in health insurance plans, as well as retirement plans. And it does preempt state and local bills that determine what goes in those benefit plans. But this bill does not determine what goes in ERISA-covered benefit plans. Instead, what it does is exactly what Maryland's prevailing wage law does, which is set some minimum wage floor and then say that that amount can be provided to workers in some combination of wages or fringe benefits, and the employer has the option of providing the benefits as a cash fringe, just like the prevailing wage does. And finally, equal protection. So the bill, the question concerns the fact that the bill says a certain category of workers, security guards, will get treated differently and get paid more, and whether that implicates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And it doesn't, because the Supreme Court has said that an occupational classification, a job, for a classification based on that, literally any possible, conceivable, rational reason for treating the workers differently is enough under the United States Constitution. And that's why Maryland, when it passed the Secure Wage Act in 2021, which raised wages for workers at BWI and Penn Station, why that was constitutional. So in short, my view is that none of these legal challenges will arise, and if they do, they will almost certainly fail. So thank you again for the opportunity to testify. Happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I'll pass around my written testimony. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next, we have Nicole Tortello.
Thank you, Chair Jones and Council, for the opportunity to testify tonight. I'm Nicole Tortorello. I am the current managing attorney of the Workplace Justice Project at the Public Justice Center. The Public Justice Center is a not-for-profit civil rights and anti-poverty legal services organization which seeks to advance social justice, economic and racial equity, and fundamental human rights in Maryland. Our Workplace Justice Project works to expand and enforce the right of low-wage workers to receive an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. And so the PJC supports this bill, which would set a minimum living wage for security officers in Baltimore City. Security officers work in a vulnerable profession in need of support. There are over 4,500 security officers working in Baltimore, and unfortunately, they work in a particularly vulnerable profession. This is an industry characterized by substandard wages, legal violations, and as a result, high turnover. Security officer turnover rates are, by some estimates, up to 300% annually, and higher wages will help improve retention, reducing the turnover and encouraging higher expertise that comes with experience among the city's security workforce. One common legal violation occurring within the security industry is rampant misclassification, with employers falsely claiming that their workers are independent contractors. The Department of Labor sued a security firm in Chicago seeking more than $450,000 in unpaid wages and damages in 2023 for this form of wage theft. Closer to home, the DC Office of the Attorney General sued a Maryland-based security firm in 2021 for misclassifying its workers. When workers are misclassified, they are cut out of the social safety net and lose protections like sick leave, workers' compensation, health insurance, and more. The security workforce is in need of stronger workplace protections, oversight, and regulation. And while this bill won't address all of these problems immediately, increasing the minimum wage is an important means of supporting and professionalizing this workforce. Others have already mentioned that Baltimore would not be an outlier in increasing wages for this specific profession, so I won't get into that. It's in my written testimony that I submitted. But I also just want to note that higher wages also support workers and Baltimore's economy. Marylanders working minimum wage jobs already live paycheck to paycheck, and in Baltimore, with security officers making as little as $15.80 an hour, just 80 cents more than that minimum wage. Is that my time up?
Yep, you can finish up.
Thank you. We know that inflation is currently increasing the cost of living, and minimum wage workers are struggling to afford basic necessities. Workers living paycheck to paycheck, spend increasing wages in the local community, thus increasing and supporting the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Tisha Burrell.
Good evening. My name is Tasha Burrell. I am here to testify in support of Bill 25-0116, which will raise the wage and benefits for standard security officers like me across Baltimore City. I am 25 I am a 25-year-old security guard, and for over a year, I've worked to keep Baltimore residents safe while myself fall deeper into financial insecurities and exhaustion. I currently make $15 an hour with no health insurance and no paid time off. I have a 7-year-old son who depends on me to provide not just a life where we can survive, but one where we can thrive. I am a single mother. My son sadly lost his father, leaving me vulnerable to raise him on my own. On $15 an hour, I cannot afford medical emergencies or the ability to live on my own. Thanks to my mother's support, my son and I have a place to stay. Too often, I am forced to choose between paying essential bills and making sure my son and I have what we need: groceries, clothing, and basic expenses. As a security guard, I am entrusted with keeping the community safe. I grant access to authorized residents, stay vigilant, and monitor security systems. I love the work I do. I take pride in helping our residents and protecting the public. Better wages and benefits will mean that my son and I can finally have a place of our own and afford health care. It will mean no longer living paycheck to paycheck, no more choosing which essential needs we have to postpone until I can find the money. It would mean peace of mind, having an emergency fund, and a real safety net. Security officers deserve better standards. We put our lives on the line to keep people safe, even as many of us struggle just to get by. I am a dedicated worker and a loving mother, and when money gets tight, the stress can become overwhelming. That is why I strongly support Bill 25-0116 to level the playing field and help security officers who give so much to this city finally have a chance to thrive. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Levon Shaw, and after that, Ari Plute.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Levon Shaw. I am here to testify in support of Security Officer Compensation Bill 25-0116. I'm a 65-year-old security guard who takes great pride in my career and the work that I do. I've been a security guard for 15 years, keeping visitors and residents safe. Although my current job offers health insurance, I quickly realized it was a bottom tier plan that would cover little to none of my necessary medical expense. I have multiple medical conditions, some which are life-threatening. I'm a hard-working, caring woman who rarely asks for help unless it's absolutely necessary. And now it is. I applied for Medicaid and was denied because my income is just $100 over the limit. I applied for Medicare, not realizing I would be charged $1,100 for 2 missed cycles of premiums, an amount I simply could not afford. I have turned to community clinics, but even there I was told I am $50 over the income threshold for assistance. I've been shut out of every path to care I need. So I am here to ask, what am I supposed to do when the system leaves me no room for people like me? I have hypertension and must remain on my medication. My doctor was able to provide a month's supply, but once that runs out, I will no longer have my medication or a way to afford it. I also have a cochlear implant, which is a hearing aid. Yet I cannot afford my follow-up appointment, which comes up in February, to maintain the device, which requires my hearing is becoming more and more difficult as a result. I have a mortgage, and I have struggled month to month to keep up with the payments. And I've missed car payments and have fought for years just to stay afloat. I love meeting the people I encounter with each day.
Finish
at
up
my
in the
job,
mic, if you can
and I
speak in
love
the mic
encouraging
so that they
others.
can hear you.
And I
Thank you.
just want to thank you for the opportunity to let me come and share my story.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shaw. I appreciate your testimony. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ari Plout. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Hotel and Lodging Association, respectfully in opposition to this bill. You should have our written testimony, which I submitted earlier. I just want to emphasize a couple points that we outlined in the written. We initially thought that the bill impacted only security agencies, so we have some concerns that the bill is far-reaching and broad. The bill will especially impact smaller hotels that will be forced to absorb additional costs. It will be a factor in whether meeting planners, when they decide to come to Baltimore, to select the host city and which hotel to select, this may impact their decision in whether to come to Baltimore or not. Less meetings means less revenue for the city. The city relies on hotel tax and guests that come to the city for their spending. Hotels were hit particularly hard by COVID and are still struggling to recover. They lost over 20% of rooms since 2019. The hotel occupancy has not returned to 2019 levels. In 2024, there were 440,000 fewer rooms that were booked compared to 2019. The last thing I'll say, Mr. Chair, we appreciate the conversation we have with you. We would continue to request the amendment to add lodging establishments, unarmed employees of lodging establishments in conjunction with the unarmed employees of bars, restaurants, and taverns. We think the intent is the same. And with that, I respectfully request an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Carla Walter.
Thank you for this opportunity to testify tonight. My name is Carla Walter, and I'm a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. I've conducted extensive research on how policymakers can uphold decent standards for workers and support a well-qualified workforce that delivers good results for the public. Security officers perform essential services to keep people safe. Yet my team released a report this fall reviewing current working conditions for security officers across the US. What we found is that security officers' wages have stayed flat for the past 15 years, while rent costs grew by 14%. About 40% of security officers do not receive employer-provided health insurance, and nearly 1 in 5 rely on Medicaid. This disproportionately harms Black and Hispanic workers that account for most workers in the occupation, but earn 10% less than white security officers. Finally, poor compensation drives high, unsustainable turnover. Annual turnover among security officers reached nearly 51% nationwide in 2023. And this high turnover, in turn, increases hiring and training costs and diminishes workforce skills. Several industry consultants, in fact, cite high turnover as leading to training gaps, increased error rates, and a lack of experience during high-stakes scenarios. And they recommend raising pay to retain workers. These recommendations are in line with research. For example, after San Francisco adopted an airport worker wage standard, turnover rates among security screeners fell from 95% to 19%. This saved thousands per employee in staffing costs and improved security and performance. And a review of contracting practices across the US finds that the adoption of wage standards decreases employee turnover, leads to cost savings, increases productivity in the workforce, and improves the quality of services. Improving security officer compensation in Baltimore would similarly support a well-qualified workforce and build on the city's existing living wage policy. Jurisdictions are increasingly taking actions to do this. So for example, Washington, D.C. requires security officers working in commercial office space buildings to be paid $25 per hour in combined wages and benefits. New York State similarly requires building service employees at major energy facilities to be paid prevailing wage rates to help secure critical infrastructure. And New York City is debating a policy to increase the wage, benefit, and training standards for security officers across the city. In addition, several cities and states have formed industry standards boards that help set and enforce workplace standards in nursing homes, home care, and fast food. Indeed, Baltimore was the first city to adopt a living wage law in 1994 and continues to enforce that. But today it's falling behind many other jurisdictions, and most importantly, it's failing security officers. Policies to ensure that security guards earn decent compensation will help protect the public and reestablish the city as a national leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alexandria Mongoria and Laura Dixon.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Alexandra Margarin. I'm the political coordinator of SEIU Local 32BJ. 32BJ is the largest building service union in the country with over 185,000 members on the East Coast. Our nearly 600 security officer members in Baltimore carry out the difficult and dangerous work of keeping the city and its residents safe. 32BJ strongly supports Bill 250116, which will guarantee a basic standard of living for Baltimore's predominantly Black security workforce. It will also ensure an even playing field for employers who are currently in a race to the bottom as they compete for contracts. Security officers are a vital part of the Baltimore's public safety infrastructure. They protect our schools, workplaces, and businesses. Due to the high demand for this essential workforce, there are now over 2 security guards for every police officer in Baltimore. But despite the enormous responsibility we place on security officers, they remain undervalued for the dangerous work they do. Nationally, security guards face higher rates of fatal injuries than many other job categories and are over 5 times as likely as other occupations to need to take time off work due to violence-related injuries sustained on the job. The security sector is also highly outsourced and labor-intensive, which means employers competing for contracts are strongly incentivized to depress wages. Poor wages and benefits, hazardous job conditions, and inadequate training have produced a turnover crisis in the workforce. Annual turnover in the security industry is now over 50%, significantly higher than the rate for the private sector overall, according to federal data. This bill seeks to improve public safety by reversing this turnover crisis and making security a profession that officers are rewarded for committing to. Low wages in the industry also exacerbate racial inequality in the city. 4 out of every 5 security guards in Baltimore are Black. Baltimore's poverty rate, may I continue?
Yes, you.
It is nearly twice the national average, and poverty is highly concentrated in Black communities. Passing this bill could uplift thousands of low-wage Black workers and their families out of poverty. In 2023, about half of Baltimore's security officers relied on public health insurance, and a third received food stamps or SNAP assistance. Raising standards could also ease the strain on taxpayer-funded services by reducing workers' reliance on public assistance. It is unacceptable that so many security officers who put themselves in harm's way to protect Baltimore are struggling to make ends meet. Baltimore security officers deserve a living wage and benefits, and Baltimore public deserves a high-quality security services that they can count on. So that's why 32BJ SEIU strongly urges the passage of this bill. Thank you for your consideration. And if I may say one more comment.
Yep, just begin to wrap up. Thank you.
Just real quick, in regards to the wage determination for the concerns or the comments that were mentioned earlier on the wage determination for the January 2026, the Department of Labor publishes its wage determinations made pursuant to the SA on the sam.gov website. We expect that the city could post a link to the website and/or include information on the wage determination on the city's website. And in addition to that, the second metric, which is based on the buildings of a certain size, there's a limited number of those buildings in the city. I believe there are about 14 or so. We're more than happy to help analyze and do research to get that information. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Dixon, and I proudly serve as a security officer for 42 years. I am here in support of Bill 250116. I do this work because I care about my community and its safety, but the truth is doing this job has never been easy, and too often I have felt like I am doing it without real support. For years, I've been paid minimum wage. I have no meaningful benefits, especially when it comes to health care. I try to sign up for company health care. It is $200 a month that I cannot afford on my wages. There is simply no way I can afford that. Today, I am dealing with serious knee problems. I have no cartilage in both of my knees. But without real health, without insurance. I need this insurance so bad. I did not mean to break down on you guys, but every pain I take is excruciating. I can't do disability because I pay $1,300 a month. Gas, electric, water bill, and it's just me. It is hard out here. I want this surgery more than anything. So I am begging you guys, please give us health care we can afford. Y'all have no idea until it happens to you. So please, give me this health care. I don't want to sit home. I don't want disability. I like dealing with the public. I don't want that. I want to work for my money. Sitting home doesn't do nothing but get fatter and sit down and eat all day and watch TV. I don't want to do that. I want to work. Please, look into your heart and please get health care for everyone that we can't afford, for our poor people. My father been shot 2 years ago in the city, 3 times in his own home. And I'm the only child not take care of my father. So please give us health care and the things we're asking for.
Thank you. Councilman Dorsey.
I just want to know, I had a previous engagement scheduled a long time ago before this hearing was announced, so I do have to go, but I really appreciate everybody's testimony. I appreciate your work on this bill. I'm looking forward to seeing how we come to resolution over it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Purnell. Kay Purnell. And after that, we have Lavette Williams.
Good evening. My name is Keisha Purnell. I'm here in support of Bill 25-0116. I'm 37 years old, and I have been working as a security officer since I was 18. I currently work warehouse shifts. I'm a hardworking, caring mother. I am the sole provider for my 2 children who tragically lost their father. My 7-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old autistic son are what keeps me going every day. As a full-time security guard and a sole provider, my wages are barely enough to get by with the cost of living rising while wages stay the same. I'm constantly walking a financial tightrope to make sure my children and I have a chance at life where we can thrive. I often fear unexpected emergencies because I don't know if one incident will be the tipping point into serious financial trouble. As security guards, we put our lives and safety on the line every single day. I have been yelled at, belittled, and threatened with violence, including with a deadly weapon, a knife, in moments like those. I am the first line of defense, so I ask, are the wages and benefits we receive truly worth the risk we face? I love my job and I value being part of something bigger than myself, protecting my community, but I also have a family I must protect and provide for. And it leaves me asking, how much longer can we be expected to face the risk without the support we deserve? Higher wages and benefits mean a peace of mind, affordable health care, and financial stability for my children and me. It will provide a real opportunity to achieve a life where hard work and dedication truly pays off. This is why I'm here to support of Bill 25-0116. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to testify? Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Good evening, Chair and council members. My name is Ninfa Amador Hernandez. I'm a policy manager at CASA. CASA is a leading organization supporting and building power and improving the quality of life in working class Black, Latina, Afro-descendant, Indigenous, and immigrant communities. And I am here to add our support to the various community members that have shown their support and partners, particularly 32BJ, in support of this vital legislation, Bill 25-116. that supports a vital sector in our city that complements our city's public safety department. Security officers are a vital component of the city's public safety infrastructure, securing their sensitive locations such as schools, hospitals, commercial buildings, public institutions, and many other public and private workplaces. Security officers ensure safe access, they deter theft, and respond first when violence or crisis breaks out in these locations. We rely on them for our safety and to keep our community safe. Particularly during this time, I want to uplift the unique and urgent role that these officers are playing in our city, protecting some of our most vulnerable residents, particularly immigrant families. When mass vigilantes are showing up in our neighborhoods, our community centers, and other marketplaces, seeking to intimidate, threaten, and create fear, it is security officers who are often there as the first line of defense in dealing with these quote-unquote law enforcement or whoever they might be. It is security officers who are able to step in and support families during these safety threats. They might be the ones maintaining calm when fear spreads through these school places, workplaces, or other sensitive locations. However, despite the enormous risk that you've heard from the many community members here and the organizations supporting, these security officers remain underpaid. And that is just something that we cannot continue to do in our city. This bill is meant to provide dignified wages for the very dignified workers providing the support. And that instability doesn't just harm these workers, it's also harming our public safety and our public trust. And I think the city and you all have a critical opportunity to uplift these low wage particularly workers of color, and strengthen our workforce stability and our public safety. And that's why CASA stands here in support of this bill, and we urge your support as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that perspective. Any other public present testimony? People are here? Okay, we will now look for online testimony. If there anyone's looking to testify online, please use the raise hand function. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Jones and members of the Labor and Workforce Committee. My name is Enrique Lopez Lera. I am the director of the Low Wage Work Program at the University of California, Berkeley Labor Center. Thank you for the opportunity to present key findings from our recent research on the private security guard workforce in Baltimore City and the Baltimore Metropolitan Statistical Area, or MSA. Security guards in Baltimore were essential workers during the pandemic, yet their compensation and working conditions do not reflect their significant role. Their responsibilities have evolved to include de-escalating conflicts, managing crises, and enforcing health and safety protocols. They also experience higher rates of assaults and fatal injuries while on the job compared to many other workers. They take on this risk without the hazard pay, benefits, and training offered to workers in similar protective service occupations. According to an analysis of census data, the median hourly wage for security guards in Baltimore City is only $18.55. This is less than 2/3 of the median wage of all workers in the city, which is $28.81. Half of security guards in Baltimore City earn below the MIT living wage for a single adult and below the low wage threshold defined as 2/3 of the area median hourly wage for all workers, which is $19.11 per hour. The bottom quarter of security guards earned $14.54 or less per hour. Security guards' median annual income of $34,854 is less than 40% of the Baltimore City area median income, which qualifies these workers as very low income for affordable housing programs. This is a workforce primarily composed of workers of color. In Baltimore, close to 3 out of every 4 security guard workers are Black. We see significant racial and gender disparities in the data. Black and female workers are more heavily represented in the especially low-paid portion of the workforce. 2 of 5 security guards in the Baltimore MSA are without health insurance through their employer or the employer of a household member. These poor conditions drive high turnover. Turnover in the investigation and security service sector in the Baltimore MSA was 91.8% in 2024, compared to 62.7% for the private sector as a whole. This high turnover directly impacts security effectiveness. Prior research on airports showed that security breach detection fell by 6% for every 10% increase in turnover. Increasing wages at San Francisco Airport led to a dramatic decrease in security screen turnover from 94% to 18% and resulted in more effective security screening. Job quality is therefore a critical issue of both economic justice and public safety. The city of Baltimore has a unique opportunity to lead the nation in setting higher labor standards for this growing and often overlooked industry. Setting robust labor standards for this workforce is necessary to ensure that Baltimore is a safe and equitable city. Thank you for your time and attention, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Yes, thank you for that testimony. Is there anyone else online looking to testify? We ask you to use the raise hand function to be identified. No one. If there's no further testimony, then thank you. Wrap that up, and at this point, if there's no other testimony, we will then postpone, I guess, we'll now go into recess. I'm sorry. Thank you all for your time and attention today. We appreciate it.